Sheikh Khalid and Leila promised a fairy tale wedding in Dubai, but behind the diamonds and gold, a chilling secret waited, one that would turn their $1.7 million celebration into a deadly nightmare. The news of Sheikh Khalid's upcoming wedding spread like wildfire through Dubai's glittering social scene. Invitations arrived at the city's most luxurious hotels, private clubs, and exclusive residences, each one promising an event more extravagant than anyone had ever seen. Rumors about the bride swirled through whispers and gossip. No one seemed to know much about her, only that she was young, beautiful, and came from a seemingly respectable family. The promise of a $1.7 million wedding drew not just friends and relatives, but influential businessmen, celebrities, and socialites, all eager to witness the spectacle firsthand. The villa chosen for the event was perched on the edge of the turquoise coastline, its towering walls gleaming under the desert sun. Golden gates led into perfectly manicured gardens, fountains sparkling as if to compete with the rising sun, and exotic flowers filled every visible corner, releasing scents that mingled with the salty ocean breeze. Inside, the villa was even more breathtaking. Marble floors reflected the sunlight streaming through enormous windows, and crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls from ceilings painted with intricate gold patterns. Every room had been prepared to impress, from the grand hall set for the ceremony to the dining areas that promised gourmet delicacies from around the world. Guests arrived dressed in their finest attire, eyes wide with anticipation and curiosity. Some murmured about the cost, others about the bride, and a few speculated on the sheik's choice, wondering what secret had captivated him enough to spend a fortune on this celebration. Amid the excitement, no one noticed the faint undercurrent of tension surrounding the bride herself, a subtle unease hidden behind her perfect smile. Even in this world of wealth and opulence, shadows were beginning to gather. The wedding day arrived with a brilliance that seemed almost unreal. The villa's gardens were transformed into a scene from a fairy tale, with arches of white roses lining the path where Leila would walk. Guests gathered, their eyes filled with awe as the orchestral music began to play softly in the background, echoing through the villa's grand halls. Leila appeared at the top of the staircase, her gown cascading in layers of silk and lace, sparkling with tiny diamonds that caught the sunlight. Every step she took seemed measured, as if she were aware that all eyes were on her. Sheikh Khalid stood at the end of the aisle, impeccably dressed, his posture rigid with pride and anticipation. The ceremony began, performed with the grandeur befitting one of Dubai's wealthiest families. Gold-trimmed chairs were lined perfectly, flowers arranged with meticulous precision, and the scent of exotic incense filled the air. Cameras flashed constantly, capturing the smiles of guests and the perfection of the event. The couple exchanged ceremonial vows, their faces calm, betraying nothing of the undercurrents that lingered beneath the surface. The reception that followed was a continuation of the spectacle. Tables glittered with crystal glassware and golden cutlery, while chefs prepared a menu that featured rare delicacies from around the world. Champagne flowed freely, and music played as elegantly dressed dancers entertained the crowd. Guests congratulated the couple, offering gifts and posing for photographs. Yet, despite the smiles and laughter, some noticed small, almost imperceptible signs of tension in Leila's eyes, a flicker of nervousness, a hesitation in her movements. No one could understand what lay behind it. In a celebration defined by perfection and wealth, the first hints of unease began to surface, unnoticed amid the grandeur, foreshadowing the shocking events that would soon shatter the illusion of a perfect wedding. Weeks before the wedding, a few of Sheikh Khalid's closest advisors began to notice small inconsistencies in Leila's story. Her past seemed unusually vague for someone entering such a prominent marriage. Details about her family, her childhood, and even the school she had attended didn't always add up. Some documents appeared altered, names changed, or missing entirely, though at first, these discrepancies were dismissed as minor oversights. Rumors started circulating quietly among the staff and distant relatives, though no one dared to confront the sheikh directly. After all, the wedding was meant to be a celebration, and questioning the bride could jeopardize the carefully curated image of perfection. Despite their attempts to ignore it, the questions kept growing louder in the background. A childhood friend of Leila, one who had been invited to the wedding, mentioned offhandedly that she had never known Leila to talk about certain relatives that she now claimed as family. Another guest noticed subtle differences in Leila's accent and mannerisms that suggested she had spent time in a place very different from the one she described. Even the most loyal advisors began to feel unease. The web of lies seemed too intricate to be coincidental. Yet, everyone hesitated to act, trapped between loyalty to the sheikh and fear of uncovering something dangerous. Somewhere beneath the glamour of invitations, golden halls, and crystal chandeliers, a hidden truth was quietly shaping itself into a storm. The more people tried to ignore it, the stronger the tension became. It was as if a shadow had already fallen over the wedding, unseen by most, but powerful enough to change the course of the celebration before it had even begun. The seeds of doubt had been planted, waiting for the right moment to reveal their devastating consequences. During the wedding reception, the atmosphere was filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses. Guests wandered through the lavishly decorated hall, admiring the intricate floral arrangements and the golden accents that adorned every surface. Amid the festivities, Sheikh Khalid noticed a small box placed inconspicuously on a side table near the main entrance. It was delicate, wrapped in soft cream-colored paper, without a name or card to indicate its sender. Curiosity drew him closer. Opening the box, he found a photograph carefully folded inside. It depicted a young girl, perhaps 10 or 11 years old, with strikingly familiar features. The resemblance was uncanny. Khalid stared, a chill running down his spine. The girl in the photograph had the same dark eyes and delicate facial structure as Leila, yet there was something slightly different, an expression, a posture, a hint of someone else beneath the surface. A sudden unease gripped him, one that he couldn't shake even as laughter and music surrounded him. He tried to dismiss the feeling, telling himself it must be some coincidence or a misplaced childhood picture. Yet, the photograph refused to leave his mind. Later, when he glanced at Leila across the crowded hall, the realization hit with increasing intensity. Could there be more to her story than she had revealed? Questions began forming in his mind, unanswered and dangerous. Who had sent the photograph, and why had it appeared at this precise moment, as if deliberately placed to stir doubt? The festive atmosphere, once so vibrant and joyous, now seemed tainted by a growing sense of unease. Beneath the glittering chandeliers and the joyous smiles of the guests, a hidden thread of deception had begun to surface, one that threatened to unravel the carefully constructed perfection of the wedding. By the second day of the honeymoon, Sheikh Khalid could no longer ignore the gnawing unease that had begun with the mysterious photograph. The private penthouse overlooking Dubai's skyline offered every luxury imaginable, yet it felt suffocating rather than comforting. Small details about Leila's past, which he had once dismissed as harmless, now clashed with each other in a way that was impossible to overlook. She mentioned places she had supposedly visited, yet the descriptions were vague or contradictory. Family stories she shared seemed rehearsed, lacking the warmth and familiarity one would expect. Khalid began to retrace her history in his mind, piecing together fragments of information that now appeared suspiciously manipulated. Even the people she claimed to know seemed distant, their connections unclear, and their existence difficult to verify. The sheikh felt a growing sense of betrayal, the type that creeps in slowly until it becomes impossible to ignore. He realized that he had married someone he barely knew, someone who had carefully curated an identity for a purpose that remained hidden. At night, as Dubai's city lights glimmered outside, he replayed every interaction, every word, every smile, wondering which were genuine and which were calculated. A quiet dread settled over him, a feeling that the luxurious honeymoon was nothing more than a stage set for deception. The thought that Leila might be hiding a dangerous secret grew stronger with each passing hour. Khalid knew he could not confront this lightly. He had to understand the truth before it was too late. The glamorous life he had imagined with his bride now felt fragile, teetering on the edge of chaos. In the heart of the city that prided itself on perfection, an invisible storm was gathering, one that threatened to destroy everything in its path. Unable to shake the growing suspicion, Sheikh Khalid discreetly hired a private investigator to dig into Leila's background. The man worked quietly, leaving no trace of his inquiries, and soon uncovered a shocking truth that sent chills through Khalid's already anxious mind. Leila had a twin sister named Nadira, a girl who had vanished years earlier under mysterious circumstances. Official records confirmed Nadira's existence, yet all references to her in Leila's family narratives had been erased or altered. Documents had been forged to conceal the truth, creating an entirely fabricated identity for Leila. The revelation was devastating. Every smile, every story, every carefully constructed memory Leila had shared suddenly took on a sinister edge. The luxurious wedding, the gifts, the grand honeymoon, all of it had been built on deception. Khalid felt the weight of betrayal pressed down upon him. How much of their relationship had been real, and how much had been orchestrated to manipulate him? The investigator revealed further evidence. Leila had deliberately changed her identity, cutting ties with her real family and crafting a new persona to enter the Sheikh's world. Her motives remained unclear, but the danger was undeniable. Khalid realized that the woman he had married was not only a stranger, but someone who had planned her life with precision, potentially hiding intentions far more alarming than he could imagine. The truth gnawed at him relentlessly, and every glance at Leila now carried suspicion. The penthouse, once a symbol of luxury and romance, had become a prison of uncertainty. Khalid understood that he was caught in a web of deceit, and the longer he delayed confronting it, the greater the risk. Beneath the glittering skyline of Dubai, a carefully concealed secret threatened to explode, changing the course of the Sheikh's life forever. Sheikh Khalid could no longer ignore the truth that had been revealed by the private investigator. The penthouse, once a haven of luxury and comfort, now felt like a cage filled with shadows. He attempted to confront Leila, hoping that there might be some explanation that could ease the growing tension. But the answers he received only deepened his unease. Leila's responses were calm, almost eerily composed, yet lacked any real explanation. Small gestures, glances, and carefully chosen words suggested she was hiding far more than she revealed. Every detail the Sheikh had once trusted, her past, her family, even her feelings for him, now appeared suspect. It became clear that the opulent wedding and the lavish honeymoon were not merely celebrations of love, but stages meticulously prepared to maintain an illusion. Khalid began to examine everything more closely, noticing subtle manipulations in her behavior, the way she controlled the flow of conversations, and how she avoided certain topics. Even the people around them seemed influenced, whether knowingly or unknowingly, by the image Leila projected. Fear began to creep into Khalid's thoughts, not just for himself, but for the reputation and security he had built. The more he considered her actions, the more it became apparent that her deception was intentional, carefully designed to manipulate everyone in her orbit. Khalid realized that he had been drawn into a carefully orchestrated scheme, one that may have far-reaching consequences beyond the confines of their penthouse. The luxurious life he imagined was crumbling under the weight of secrets and lies. Every moment spent with Leila was now clouded by suspicion, and he understood that uncovering the full truth might come at an unbearable cost. The perfect wedding had become a prelude to a nightmare he could no longer ignore. Tension reached its breaking point on the fourth night of the honeymoon. Sheikh Khalid had spent hours alone in the penthouse, piecing together the fragments of deception that now surrounded him. The luxurious suite, with its sweeping views of Dubai's skyline and lavish furnishings, felt like a gilded prison. Everything he had believed about Leila, the smiles, the stories, the love, was now shrouded in doubt. That night, he discovered evidence that Leila had been tampering with his belongings, subtly moving items, and accessing documents she had no right to touch. It became clear that her deception extended beyond identity. She had plans that involved secrets and wealth hidden from him. Panic and rage collided within Khalid as he realized the full extent of her betrayal. The penthouse, once filled with celebration and romance, now echoed with the weight of fear. He confronted Leila, but she remained unervingly calm, her composure almost theatrical. The confrontation escalated quickly, words giving way to actions, and the situation spiraled out of control. In a desperate, fatal moment, a struggle occurred, ending with Leila's sudden and violent death. The room, once a symbol of opulence, became a crime scene. Khalid was left in shock, the reality of what had happened settling like a heavy stone in his chest. Outside, the city continued to shine, oblivious to the tragedy unfolding within the walls of one of its most luxurious penthouses. The lavish wedding, meant to celebrate love and union, had ended in a single, horrifying act that would forever stain the memory of the event. Wealth and grandeur could not shield anyone from betrayal, and Khalid now faced the consequences of deception more chilling than he could have imagined. In the aftermath of Leila's death, Sheikh Khalid's world descended into chaos. The penthouse, once a symbol of luxury and celebration, was now filled with silence and unease. His advisors and staff scrambled to manage the situation, aware that any leak could ignite a scandal that would shake Dubai's elite circles. Every detail had to be controlled: the cleaning of the suite, the removal of evidence, and the careful crafting of explanations for anyone who might ask questions. Rumors began to circulate quietly among those closest to the sheikh, whispers of betrayal and violence, yet the public remained unaware. Khalid himself moved through the aftermath like a man trapped between relief and terror. The investigation he had quietly commissioned now demanded urgent attention, not only to verify the circumstances of the death, but also to ensure that no trace of the deception remained to haunt him. Even as the city continued its dazzling, unbothered life, the shadow of the murder lingered in the villa's halls. Guests who had attended the wedding were contacted discreetly, advised to maintain silence, and left with a lingering sense of unease that they could not fully articulate. Khalid understood that wealth and status offered no immunity from the consequences of betrayal and deceit. Each decision, each move to conceal the truth, added layers of tension to a situation already teetering on the edge. The city outside seemed indifferent to the private horrors unfolding within its most opulent walls, its glittering skyline hiding a story of manipulation, lies, and death. Even as the immediate crisis was managed, Khalid could not escape the knowledge that the events of those days had irrevocably altered his life. Luxury and power could no longer shield him from the dark legacy of a wedding that ended in murder. Though Leila's story had ended abruptly, the memory of the wedding and its shocking conclusion lingered long after the villa had returned to silence. In Dubai's elite circles, the tale became a whispered legend, a cautionary story of betrayal and hidden identities. Guests who had attended the ceremony recounted fragments of what they saw, carefully omitting details that might expose themselves to scrutiny. The city's glittering skyline, its luxury hotels, and bustling streets now seemed to hold an undercurrent of tension, as though the memory of the $1.7 million wedding still cast a shadow over the otherwise radiant metropolis. Sheikh Khalid returned to his life of opulence, but the ease and certainty he once felt were gone. Every interaction, every decision, carried the weight of suspicion and memory. He knew that the carefully maintained image of perfection could never erase the events of those nights or the realization that he had been deceived in the most intimate way possible. The twin sister secret that had shattered his life became a story he could neither fully suppress nor publicly acknowledge. It lingered like an invisible mark, a constant reminder that appearances could be crafted and trust could be manipulated. Even the villa, once a place of celebration and grandeur, seemed haunted by the echoes of betrayal and violence. The story spread quietly among socialites and advisors, a chilling example of how even wealth, power, and luxury could not prevent tragedy. In the city of gold, skyscrapers, and endless lights, the legend of the Sheikh's wedding served as a dark reminder. Behind every glittering celebration, there might be secrets capable of destroying lives. The opulence and glamour were no shield. The shadows of deceit could reach even the highest towers, leaving a mark that no fortune could erase.